What's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to Friday Fuel. My name is Adam Lindsay. In the studio with us today, we got Donald Peel and
What's going
Alexander
on, everybody?
Sala.
What is up?
Unfortunately, Colin couldn't be with us this morning. His wife had surgery and he had to be at the hospital for that. So, prayers up for Colin.
Shout out, prayers up.
Donnie with the fresh cut. Yeah,
Ooh,
looking good.
ooh.
Well, hey, this morning we thought long and hard about what we wanted to talk about with you guys because there's just so many different things, and we've already covered a lot. But we were trying to think of something that would be good that a lot of people would be interested in, and that could help a lot of people. And so today, I think we're going to go over a little bit about objections and how we can better overcome objections when they come up and prepare for those. Donnie, what are your thoughts?
For one thing, I want to add that the best time to overcome objections is before they even come up. What I find is a lot of times objections come from distrust, and as more specifically a telesales agent myself, over the phone sales is very, very tedious trying to gain trust. And if you can gain trust over the phone from the very beginning, from the start, I promise you the amount of objections that you encounter will drastically decrease.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think another thing. I think the trust thing is such a big thing, Donnie. It's like if you don't have trust with the client, they're going to stump you every time, right? They're going
Every
to give you
time.
an objection, and I think it comes back to actually being comfortable with the client and being comfortable with your sales skills and your tactics to help the client out, right? And the client can tell if you're nervous or timid behind the phone, and then
Yep.
that's just going to bring even more objections to you because they're like, okay, this person may not even know what they're talking about or whatever the situation is, right? So you got to, I think one of the main things for sure when it comes to the objections and not how it's overcoming the objection, but it's making sure that the objection doesn't even come,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
And that comes with being comfortable over the phone with the client or in person, right? And that comes with obviously training, learning, soaking it all in like a sponge, when you're first starting in the business. And then as you continue to get better, better, and better with your words and how you're actually trying to help the client and show them the problem and the resolution, you know, that's really when the client has a better understanding. And that's how you're actually going to able to get less objections because you're comfortable and you've built the trust with the client.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think a lot of it comes to the type of framework that you use. I know a lot of people work with a script, right, where they're
Mhm.
just reading verbatim what's written down there.
Yep.
I think when you can get past that point of having to read word for word, then it becomes more of a framework, and it allows you to bounce your words off of what the client says much easier.
Yeah.
And then you can pre-frame your questions at the beginning of the call to, like you said, be able to overcome those objections before they even become an objection.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I know when I first started out, that sounded like so much of that, the rah rah. Oh, the best way to overcome an objection is before it even starts. And it's really, really, really important that as you mature in your insurance business, to take a step back and drop your ego and realize, man, it really might be me. It really might be the fact that I don't go back through my calls. I don't track at what points of my conversations I'm getting objections. I'm not going back and listening to the tone of my voice every time I get an objection and how I respond. And it's really you. I know the second I did that and had the realization that, hey, man, like maybe it's my skills. Maybe it's the way I'm saying something. Maybe it's the way I'm phrasing a word. I know for me, I'm, part of that Southern, hospitality. So I use the word unfortunately a lot. And let me tell you, using the word unfortunately, especially over the phone, triggers something in a client's brain and turns what you're trying to do as a positive into a negative.
Yeah.
So I had to drop the word unfortunately completely out of my vocabulary because I was overusing it incredibly and encountering objections right after that word.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
find that the words that we use really have an impact on what
Absolutely.
people say. So if you're
Yeah.
using positive words, that creates a positive mindset for the client. If you're using negative words a lot, does exactly what you said, Donnie.
Yeah.
I agree with you as well, Donnie. It's like I have a couple agents, and agents say this in general. Man, it's the people. It's I feel like I'm doing everything right. They
Yep.
keep saying no. They keep saying no. They keep saying no. That, like I said again, to go back on what I just said, and you're 100% right. You got to set your ego aside and say, okay, well, I actually am really messing up, right?
Yep.
Just like what Joe said, call recordings are huge, right? We got to make sure we record calls. Like I'm doing this for myself as I'm recording some of my calls, so I can show agents that are coming on, hey, this is what we're going to do for cold calling. This is what we're going to be doing for life leads, and door knocking, right? And you got to make sure and have a better understanding of, hey, it's actually you that's getting these objections because the client sees your timidness and uncomfortableness, and they think you're untruthful sometimes. So I really think that's spot on.
Yep. Yeah, you're getting a wide range of people that are telling you no. At what point do you take a step back and say you're the common
Exactly.
denominator there?
And most and the thing is most agents, what they do is they always think it's not them, and that's not them, and that's why 92% people fail, is because
Absolutely.
they think they're doing it right, and they're really not, and they're not
Yeah.
listening. They're not being coachable, right? Cody's so big on being coachable. You got to be
Absolutely.
coachable if you want to get on the other side of it.
Little sneak peek. The password for our computers on the Ultimate Agent was coachable.
Was coachable. Absolutely. I
For
Um,
think
sure.
yeah, go
I
ahead,
think
Donnie.
Joe's word of the quote is really, really good. If you use quote, then what do you think they are there for? I'm here to sell policies. That's huge. That's huge. Anytime, someone asks for a quote, I always like to say, "Oh, just give me the quote so I can, go back to what I was doing." I always say, well, first I have to make sure that I can even help you in the first place. As you're aware, we don't buy life insurance with just money. We also buy it with our life and health. So I'm not even sure at this point that I can even help you. People are going to chase the things that went away from them.
So,
So if
so
you're
Donnie, what
shoving
you're
it down their
saying.
throat, shoving it down their throat, they're probably going to take a step back and say, "Whoa, man, take a chill pill. Calm down on me for a second."
So instead of saying, uh, the word quote, you should just say, "I'm here to sell you a policy." Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
It's also like obviously when it comes to selling life insurance, right? Instead of quote, obviously like it's connecting with the client on an emotional standpoint, right? Because it's all transactions are emotional things. So you have to get them to open up about their family, why they want it, what they want it for, right? Because if they are giving you an objection, come back to the family, because it's going to help them. It's going to make them think at an emotional level, like I really need to protect my family, right?
Mm.
So that's another way, kind of, before you start diving in and actually how to overcome these objections if you're getting them. It's like if they do object you, going back on a life insurance lead, for example, going back to their family and how they feel about their family and what's most important for them with life insurance for their family, right? So
Yeah.
it's all that.
And one thing too that I'll just mention, if one thing we're going to do here in the next couple minutes is go over some of the ways that we overcome objections if they come up. So
Yep.
if you have a specific objection that you're getting a lot or that you need help with, go ahead and put it down in the chat and we'll cover it for you. But yeah, Joe, that's great. Use policy proposal. Those are good words to use.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
at the
Yeah.
end of this, throughout this podcast, if you put your Gmail in the group chat, all of us have tons of scripts, tons of different objection scripts, and all that kind of good stuff. At the end of the episode, we'll definitely go back and send you and share all the different things that we have for everybody. So
Mhm. And if you guys please could let StreamYard view your comments.
yep,
I'm trying to figure out who this Facebook user, so please let
yeah,
StreamYard view your comments.
yeah, I
it's
love watching you guys.
Amanda Lunsford.
Oh, it was okay. Cool. What's up, Amanda? Yeah.
Yeah, but Joe's going to put the link up in the chat here in just a second, so you can let StreamYard see your names when we pop up on the stream here. But yeah, so let's get into some of the most common objections. I think first and foremost, right when you get on the call, what's the first objection that most people give? So I'm not interested.
Yep.
So Alex, do you want to touch on that a little bit of, like what do you say when somebody just kicks it off with, well, I'm not interested?
Well, I first think it depends on what you're calling, right? So if this is a Medicare cold call, if this is a Medicare lead, if this is a life lead, why are you
Hold on.
laughing? Dude?
That's let's touch on that for a second. That's a really good example, Joe, of a great objection that a lot of people get, that their beard is not as good as mine. I know Alex gets that all the time. So
I'm trying to look like Bishop Adam. That's what I'm trying to look like.
he's trying, but he's failing. So all right, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, yeah. So I thought you were laughing at me for a second. So I was like, what's going on, bro? But so no, it depends on what lead you're calling. So if it's a Medicare Life or if it's just a cold call. For me, mainly I am doing, I've been recently doing Medicare cold calls. So how I'd really go about it is I'd say, hey, is this Mrs. Jones? Yes. Hey, Mrs. Jones, this is Alexander with the Invested American. How are you doing today? Doing good, doing good. Hey, I was actually going to be out that way in Tulsa tomorrow, passing out all the Medicare reviews for the new year. And I actually had one for you as well. Are you still on Medicare A and B? Is that correct? So they'll say yes, or they'll say, for example, right? They'll say, yes, I'm not interested. No biggie, no biggie. You know what? Like I said again, I totally understand. I'm not necessarily trying to change anything that you have right now. My job as the state representative in your area is just to get out the reviews for the new year and what gaps and changes that you may have in some of your coverages. So we're all on the same line and up to speed about what really is going on with all the changes. Okay. For example, they say, okay. And I'll say, okay, great. Like I said, because you want to get off the phone quick. You really do want to get off the phone quick when you're doing these Medicare cold calls, because I mean, the more you keep them on the phone, the greater chance you're going to have to lose the appointment, right?
Absolutely.
So right if they say okay to that, hey, like I said again, and when it's not going to take more than 10 or 15 minutes of your time, and then I'll be out of your hair. Are you still over there at 12345 B Street? Is that right? Yes, I am. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to get this down on my calendar. I want to make sure you get it down on your calendar as well. So we're both on the same page. Okay. I'm getting it down on my calendar right now. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Just like that. If someone, says that they're not interested on a Medicare cold call.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
That's
wish
a really
I wish
great.
we had a replay system so I could go back, and I just want to make a point there of something that you did, Alex, that I don't even think you're aware of, but it's so key. Every time that he finishes a sentence, he ends in a question. Even if it's just a regular sentence, he still goes, okay. Why? Because more people are more prone to answer a question than they are just a statement. So it would
Exactly.
be so quick for someone to him finish his statement and they just go click. But when he asks that question, he's eliciting a response. And the humans are social creatures. People want to respond to people. Even if it's, even if it's a negative response, you still have that another chance to overcome an objection without getting a click. So always finish with a question.
It like
And
triggers
one
them.
thing,
Like they feel like they have to answer the question, even if they don't want to.
yeah.
Yep.
And that's so good. And one thing I learned when I was getting into cold calling, like right as I turned 16, I was making dials. And you never want to ask a yes or no question.
Mm.
Never. I don't care if you're
Open-ended.
dialing. Yeah, I don't care if you're dialing Medicare, life, cold calling, whatever it is, right? You do not want to give them a yes or no question, because if they're on the border, if they're interested or not interested, they're not interested. So they're going to say no, right?
Yep.
So you always want to finish. I always finish with the upbeat voice, like, well, I'll be out there tomorrow, passing out all the Medicare reviews in your neighbors for your area. Okay. Kind of like that, right? You always want to finish with the okay or fair enough. That's something that's really helped me out.
Yeah.
Wow. Sure.
There's a good framework to follow with that. And this is really applicable to any objection that you're going to run into. But you want to, it's the 3 A's, right? Acknowledge, answer, and then ask. Right? So you acknowledge the objection and say, hey, I appreciate that, or I totally understand. Then you want to answer to whatever they said. I'm just here to get you the information, whatever it is. And then ask them a question. Would it be better if I come out tomorrow at 9:00 or 2:00? Right. I think that's a great framework. I learned that from Cody when I first started in the business.
I as well. I remember that exact video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I learned when I was or when I've continued to been cold calling with seniors, because I'm mainly visiting with 65 and over, right? And one thing my dad taught me is that at some point, when they're not interested, and I said all my lines and stuff, and they're still not interested, right? At some point, you just you have to ask for their help, in all honesty, because it's not like they feel bad for you, but they're like, well, maybe I should just give this kid a chance, right? And that's worked for me many times. Many times it has, but many times it has, is just saying, you know what, Mrs. Jones, I honestly totally get it. You're not interested. I really do. This is just my job. This is what I do for a living. I'm coming out to help benefit you and see what ways I may be able to help you out in some of your coverages. Ma'am, I would really love just 10 or 15 minutes of your time. Okay. Just like that. And that's like last resort. If I've gotten 4 not interested,
Oh, that is so huge. I mean, that's so huge right there.
because what do you got to lose? They're just going to say no at
Exactly.
the end of the day. Just keep asking if they're not interested. It's just,
Yeah.
that's something that has worked for me though.
Emotional response that even I had, listening to you ask that question as
Yeah.
someone over the phone, as an older person hearing a young kid say that, and not even just young kids, of course, new agents can go into, hey, listen, I'm new to this, you really do need this information. I'm just not the best at presenting it to you. If you give me a chance, let me show you, what you qualify for, what I can help you with. I promise you, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
So true.
I learned something in a training recently. This was geared more towards under 65 ACA health insurance, but I think it applies pretty much anywhere. You just got to figure out the wording for what you're selling. But they were in person and they were running a booth, and they would just ask people, like, would you like us to quote your health insurance, or whatever the initial question was. And people would walk by and be like, no, I'm not interested, or no, I'm good. I've got coverage. And then they'd be like, oh, well, as long as you're not paying more than $4, like, great. And then they'd be like, wait, what? Get something to catch their attention. And then you hooked them in, and you'd be like, yeah, well, I mean, I assume you're not paying any more than $4 on your health insurance, right? And so you can get in and start doing a quote, because that's all you want to do, is you want to get them on the phone and you want to run the numbers and see actually what they're eligible for, what they have, and see if you can beat the price, right?
Yeah.
I want you guys to pay attention to what Adam just said though, right? He just had a major hook, right? He said, well, then if you're not paying $4, then you know what I'm saying? So like if that sparks the client's head, like, what, $4? You know what I'm so like you got to make sure you have a quick hook if they do give you an objection, something quick, the price wise, right? Because if they say, you ask the client if they give you an objection, well, I help clients out, possible with rate reductions and things. How much are you paying, right? They're paying 150, and then you throw out the price for 50, and they're like, wait, what did you say?
Yep.
Just that hook, bringing the client back in.
People love numbers. I don't know what it is about numbers, but if you go look at any sort of like Facebook ad or anything that pops up on your screen, a lot of times you'll see like the clickbaity 5 things you should never do when you buy a home, right? Or 21 things that whatever, right? And people they eat that up.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so effective in your marketing, and that's why it's really effective in this scenario as well.
Spot on.
Dude, I'm gonna take that one. I need to write that down. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was a beast mode.
That is a great nugget right there.
Okay, so we've got that one down. I think probably the next biggest objection probably has to do with like payment information or social, unless there's something before that you guys want to cover.
We got not interested. Oh, do you have an I'm busy? Another I'm not interested or I'm busy, kind of hand in hand. But the best way to do it is, it sounds like, Alex, your and our initial callers are just a tad bit different. I like to get a lot of the information on my first call compared to in the appointment. So,
which I don't mean to cut you off real quick. I do. So for me, I do some pre-fact finding.
Okay.
I'll do that very quick, very brief before I get off the phone. Hey, are you on Medicaid? Because if they're on Medicaid, bro, if I help them out, I'm maybe selling a $20 life app, maybe, right? So I want to do some pre-fact finding to see where they're at with their Medicare real quick. If they are, if they say that they're not on Medicaid, I think it's all good. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And the thing I want to make a point of is we have these fact finders in there, but there's going to be times where, bro, you just got to get them off the phone and book the appointment. They're not, no matter how good you are at overcoming objections, some people genuinely are busy. So you want to get the appointment down, say it 4 or 5 times so they have it in their head. And then I always send them a text message confirmation as well. I don't normally do that, but if someone's, kind of sketchy and I don't think they're going to make their appointment, I'll hit probably 4 or 5 points of contact before that appointment starts.
Yep.
Because, man, sometimes you just got to get people off the phone and at least get an appointment set.
And even if they don't show up for the appointment, you're not wasting your time on somebody who's not going to be interested, right? So the quicker you can get them off the phone, the better.
Yeah, exactly.
And even in like situations, you would know if they seem a little flaky. Obviously, you can double book it, right?
Yeah, that's what
And
I do. Double
have an
book.
extra appointment, right?
Yep.
Which makes sense. But I also feel like this whole like objections thing comes back to like what you're passionate about,
Mm,
whether that's like whether that's cold calling, or calling life insurance leads, whatever it is, right? You have to be passionate about something because I have agents that, I'm training that, they don't feel passionate. I can tell that they're not passionate about what they're doing, right?
yep.
And even in this space, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, like I said, again, the client will be able to tell that over the phone and they'll be like, well, this guy doesn't even like his job. He's not upbeat. He's not giving me what I want to hear. Right. You gotta hook a client in,
Yeah.
and if you're not passionate, you got to find out what you're passionate about, because once you find out what you're passionate about, whether that's cold calling, whatever it is, right, then it will honestly help you close more appointments and overcome all those objections and not even get the objections as well.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
But
solid.
yeah.
I think one of the probably the biggest objection, once you've had the appointment, you've gone through the rates, you've talked to the client, the biggest thing that most people run into is, well, I need to think about it, or I
mm,
need to talk to this person about it.
Very
I
true.
need to
Yeah.
pray to my dog about it, whatever it
yep.
is, right? What kind of strategies do you guys have to either eliminate that objection from coming up or to overcome that when it does?
Well, again, to eliminate that objection completely would be, again, building that trust, and we would have to go into like a full length, process with throughout your framework of how to hit certain touch points and build their trust along the way. But to once you get it, I immediately go to the elicit response. If they say, oh, I need to think about it, or I need to talk to my husband or my wife, whichever one, I always say, if something were to happen to you between now and in the time that you talk to your husband, what would be in place to protect him.
Mhm.
If me personally, if my wife came to me and said, hey, honey, today I protected our family and our financial future while you were at work, I would be ecstatic personally. So I don't think you need to talk to your husband. What exactly is holding you back from going ahead and putting this in place and seeing if you qualify? And then again,
Awesome.
finish with a question. Started with
N-
the emotional response and finish with a question.
Yeah,
Either open ended or a okay, and not a yes or no question. No yes or no
Absolutely.
questions in that situation.
but one that I heard recently, and I won't be able to say it as good as she can because I've only listened to it once, but this is something I plan on adopting. Is they'll say, well, I got to talk to so and so about it, and oh crap, I just forgot what she said.
Oh no.
Come
Come
back to
on,
me in a
Adam.
second. I'll remember it.
I think, Donnie, I would honestly agree with you when it comes to the I need to think about it. I would literally just sit there and be like, you know, Mrs. Jones, what happens? I know you need to talk to your husband, like, but what happens from now and when you do go talk to him, or you wait a week from now and God forbid you pass away,
Mm,
right? And
yep.
and then you have to deal with the guilt and regret of not actually getting something at that time, So when it comes to with my job and what I do for a living, and what I care about so much for you guys is that we making sure that we have something in place, because if something does happen to you a week from now, I have to deal with some guilt too, that I honestly I didn't push you hard enough to get this right,
Absolutely.
because I genuinely feel that, and I just wouldn't know how to act, man.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't. Like, I want to make sure you're protected. I want to make sure you at least just see if we can get you applied.
Yep.
I just want to see if we can get you applied right now. Okay, I think we should do that. And we're gonna do that, and then kind of go from there, right?
Yep.
We're gonna go for this right now. We're gonna go for this $90 a month. Okay, but when you do talk to your husband, we can go ahead and bring that down. If it is a little pricey, we can bring it down a little bit. But I just want to make sure we can get you applied and approved, right? Because you
Yep.
have it today, Mrs. Jones. But if you do pass away tomorrow and you have it'll pay once you have the level benefit. You'll have your husband will have that protection.
And that's a nice blend of kind of what I was going to say. So you pretty much touched on the latter part of it, but to start, she kind of faces the objection head on, and she says, "Look, I'm not going to lie to you. 99% of the time, when somebody says that they're going to think about it or that they're going to call me back, They never call me back. I never talk to that person ever again.
Mm.
And I don't want that to happen to you. I think we've built a good relationship. I blah, 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 XYZ. And you told me that it looks like a good plan. You need it. And we're able to make all these adjustments, like you were just saying, Alex. So let's just go ahead and see if we can get you approved for the policy, get something in place today, and then you can take it to your spouse. If something is off or you need to lower the premium down, we have 30 days. We can make any adjustments that we need to. But let's go ahead and get you covered now, in case something were to happen.
Oh, that is so good.
And a
Please.
lot of sorry, Donnie. A lot of agents will sit here and think, yeah, that's shitty business, whatever, right? Like in the moment, it may feel like it is at some level if they really like, because you can tell like if they're somewhat committed, which it seems good, and if they're not committed as much, right? But just the fact of you getting something in place, if something really does happen to this client 30 days from now and their draft hasn't happened yet, but they do have the level benefit, that's going to give a peace of mind for the client if something, God forbid, does happen. That,
Yeah.
I'm glad I really did get this policy now that I think about it, right?
And it
And
really is, honest to God, like it's crazy how things happen, right? Like you never know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. Just yesterday, a friend of ours, they have an 8-year-old boy who was riding his bike down the driveway. Somebody was turning right as he was coming down to go into the driveway, smacked him head on, broke several bones. He's in the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
8 years old, right? He could have died. You never know. And so I to an extent, I don't think that you can be too upfront with people unless it's really just to like, I need this sale, which that's different than wanting to protect somebody's.
And the client will be able to get, that's so good, Adam. A client will be able to tell if it's all about just the sale for you, or if you're actually caring about them on an emotional standpoint, right?
Yep.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Mm.
And my dad said that so many freaking times, bro. But and I learned that from it. And it's very, very true. Like the client, like what I like to do when they give me objections, right? About that, I need to think about it. This and that. I like to bring up real life scenarios that actually had happened to someone I know, right? Bring up real life scenarios to the client. And then the client will see, well, okay, that could possibly happen to me. It starts connecting with them on an emotional standpoint. And that's really what it comes to overcoming those objections too, is connecting with them on that level.
I love that, Alex. I was literally about to say the same exact thing. Finding a story. Shoot, if it's not your story, share someone else's story.
Exactly.
Talk to your coworker. Talk to one of us. We'll give you a story to tell.
There's
The
so
one
many
I always
stories.
share whenever they want to say, I want to think about it. I want to take some time to sit on it. I go back to my grandmother. Whenever she passed away, I'll be honest with you, the only thing that kept us afloat were her life policies. She passed away during COVID, and that's when everything was just stupid expensive. Her funeral was $30,000. And I didn't have $30,000 sitting in the bank at the time. My mother didn't have $30,000 sitting by the bank at the time. But the only thing that saved us was her life insurance policy she had through Mutual of Omaha. She had a couple. Set my mother up. My mother's very much set up for retirement now. Gave her a beautiful funeral, celebration of life. And now I'm also set up, very blessed. These are the things that you could provide to your family if we go ahead and put something in place for you today. My grandmother did it for me, so I want to do it for your children, for your grandchildren.
Yeah, and it makes it feel so much more personal when it comes from a standpoint of this is my personal experience and this is why I do it.
Yep.
It's not trying to force a sale on you. You don't have to say that, but make it feel that way, that you're not trying to just sell them something. You really care about putting something in place so that their family is protected.
Yep.
Yeah. And Donnie's whole story, right? Like we've already hounded on this. Just the personal story is really how you're going to connect with the client on an emotional standpoint. So they see that could possibly happen in my family. Well, if that did happen, I wanted to make sure I have something in place.
And use my story. I give you permission. Take it.
Yeah.
Facts tell, stories sell.
Bam. Oh,
there we
that's
go.
A bar, bro. Dang. That's a bar.
Dude. It's why this industry and our job is so good, bro. Is because we get to, the main. I say this in every time I'm in a client's home, legit. Because I'm cold calling Medicare, calling referrals from Medicare, whatever it is. But I'm also going in there in the tent for life insurance too. It's so good about our job is we get to protect people first, and then we get to, obviously make a living after, right? Is the number one, making sure that the family's protected before anything else. Because like we said, again, the client will be able to tell if you're just all about the sale, right? If you're just trying to hard close that sale, or
Yep.
if you actually care about the client. Because if you care about the client, you're going to bring up scenarios, stories, and emotional things for the client so they can actually get a better understanding. Hey, I actually do need this.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're in it for just the sale, go to a different sales industry. Like this is not for you. We are protecting people here. We do care about people. We want to help people, protect their financial assets, protect their financial future. And if that's not your why, if that's not the reason you're in this, business, then I'm gonna be honest, you're not gonna last long. You're gonna struggle. People are gonna tell. Like especially nowadays, people have a very, very high BS meter, and people are very, very obviously BSing. So if this isn't for you, then by all means, just change industry, stay in sales, if that's what you like. But you have to have a why, and you have to have passion for the client, passion for the business, passion to help people. Because if you don't have those things, then again, you're not going to last long, and it's going to be very, very hard for you.
Yeah. So thank you for those thoughts. Let's pivot real quick to kind of the last major objection that I think a lot of people will get, and that's towards the Social Security number
Hmm.
and the banking, right? I
Yep.
know a common one that a lot of people get on the banking is, if you've used some of these strategies we've been talking about, they're like, well, I thought we were just seeing if we could get approved today, right? I didn't
Very
know we
true.
were paying for a policy or putting some, how would you overcome something like that, Alex?
That's great, Adam. I actually had, it's funny you say, I actually had a story like that at the Ultimate Agent. I was in the field running, and what I was doing the Ultimate Agent, I was in the field running appointments. In the meantime, me running appointments, I was dialing. I had my laptop like a cop, bro. I had my laptop like right there on my little console, and I was scrolling through these leads because I had leads flowing in. And I actually got hit with that objection. The lady told me, she said, Alexander, why do we need a bank info? I thought we were literally just trying to see if I can get me approved, right? I don't remember offhand what I said, but what I would tell the client is I would say, you know what, Mrs. Jones, I totally understand. This is a part of the process of us getting you approved. There's no bank drafts going on. There's nothing that's actually getting drafted out of your account until 30 days, like I had said in the beginning, right? I know today's the 29th. We have it set up for the 20th of October. Like I said, again, this is just so we can see if we can get you approved. Like I told you again, we can drop your benefit if need be. Okay. And there's going to be no drafting until the 20th. I do call my clients before that draft does happen. So me and you are going to stay on the same page week by week to make sure that we're all caught up to speed together. Okay. But I would just need that just to continue with the application. Okay. Nothing else I'll need. That's it. And then, like I said, the first draft wouldn't happen until 30 days away. Besides that, Adam, one thing that's really helped me in sales is being repetitive. I think when I say stuff over and over and over again that I feel like has value, it's worked for me. Like what I'll tell a client, right, is I'll say, and this is kind of backtracking, but before the presentation even happens, when I'm trying to help the client and close the sale, is I'll say, hey, most insurance companies don't do this, but I have a select few carriers that actually are able to move your draft date 30 days out. So you don't have to worry about the month of the late September and the beginning and middle of October. Okay. And that's something I'll say, but getting back on track with because it makes the client feel a little bit better. Like, okay, he may be, hooking me up with a better deal than someone else would. Right. And the client sees that, but just telling the client how, like, just be honest.
Yep.
Like that, if you guys didn't see what I just said about the objection of the bank info, just be honest with the client. Like if you're trying to put on a face or something, they're going to tell. If you're nervous, they're going to tell, and they're sure as hell not going to give you their information.
Yep.
Just be honest and
And
say,
I put everything back on the insurance company. Like if you don't want to take it yourself, say, hey, listen, the insurance company requires me. If it was my choice, I wouldn't want to give it either. But this is what we have to do because this is what the insurance company makes me do. I think it's bullcrap too. But
yeah,
hey, we
dude.
could sit here on our thumbs, or we could get this moving again. You know what I'm saying? And they're usually like, yeah, screw that insurance company. I can't believe they need it, blah, blah, blah. It's you and the client versus the insurance company. being on their side will drop a lot of your objections because you're on their side, not the insurance companies, and you make that aware to them.
Yeah. And if you don't want to take that standpoint, you can even be upfront and be like, well, what's the point of going and seeing if we can get approved if you're not actually going to get a policy, right?
Mm.
So this is showing the insurance company that you're serious, that if they do approve you, that you do want to get a policy,
Mm.
right? And so we have to just show proof that, number one, you have the means to purchase the policy, and that you're seriously inquiring. So nothing's going to draft out today, but we do have to include this as part of the application process.
Oh, that was so huge. That was so good. And again, it ties back to the adage that people chase the things that run away from them. If you say, well, hey, listen, I'm not even sure if we can still even get you approved yet. This is one of the steps to make sure we can get you approved. At this point, you're a sitting duck. I can't help you at this point.
Yep.
And then also to tie into Alex's, the touch points that you give them will also gain the trust and reduce a lot of your chargebacks. Saying, hey, I'm going to call you when it drafts. Call them on the day it drafts. I'm going to call you when you get approved. Call him whenever they get approved.
You got to, because it shows a level even of more trust that you've already built with the client, that he's going to stick with me,
Yep.
and just like what you said before, Donnie, I would tell the client, after bundling it all up, after they say they don't want to give the bank info, I'll literally finish with, hey, also, I just want to let you know this is completely confidential with me, you, and the insurance company. If
Absolutely.
something does happen where it gets out, my job and how I make a living is in jeopardy.
Yep.
I would lose my license if anything else got out.
Yep.
Right.
I'd lose my
So like I
license. I
said,
would go to jail.
exactly. And I'll walk you through, and I'll be walking with you through the whole way of the process. Okay. Call you before the draft day and we'll talk every day of the week, or not every day, once a week. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I would never do that.
Same thing applies with the social too. You can use that same kind of approach. Real quick, I wanted to
Exactly.
touch on. Somebody asked, "Is there an opportunity to apply as a cold caller?" I personally am not hiring any cold callers. I don't know about you guys, but there are definitely opportunities for that. I'm sure you could make a post on this syndicate page or
Yeah,
look for
absolutely.
somebody who is hiring.
Yeah,
There's
someone definitely
definitely
is, I'm sure.
Hey,
opportunity
that
for
is
that.
Kim. Yeah, Kim. Me and you can talk. I would be open to talking. Um, yeah. If you want to contact me, I can put my Instagram or my phone number in the comment section. So we'll
Yeah.
connect up for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and just to go back for a second, for the Social Security, I always go back to mine as like, let's say, oh, I don't want to give my security out, or Social Security out, or why do I have to give my Social Security out? I'll go, well, Miss Jones, Mr. Jones, but before the pandemic, I would actually come out to your house, look at your license, shake your hand, and I would verify you are who you say you are, to go ahead and send this insurance policy through. After the pandemic, now that we're actually over the phone, I need this Social Security number to verify you are who you say you are, obviously. And then after
Exactly.
that, I almost never have any objections. And that just works for telesales. I can't speak to in-home. But for telesales, before this pandemic, I'd actually come out to you and, we would sit down for hopefully and have some lunch together, and verify you are who you say you are. But now I actually, since we're doing this over the phone, to verify you are who you say you are, I need that Social Security number. And nine
And
times out of 10, I never have a problem with that.
I think one step even before that's so important, is just being direct with that question. Like, you can't beat around the bush.
Yep.
When it comes up, you say, "What's your full social?" Yeah,
Sorry
don't
for
beat around the
laughing, but
bush. So
And
just ask that
what I'll
direct.
do a lot of times while I'm building up that trust, if I'm kind of hinting that they're on the fence back and forth, I'll save a large portion of course, sensitive information like the Social Security number, addresses, banking info, and I'll clump them together. So that whenever it comes, I'm asking them one by one, so it seems more serious of a thing than me just asking throughout.
Yeah.
Because when you ask throughout, a lot of people says that, oh, he's fishing. He's leading me on so that he can ask me these
exactly.
questions throughout. If I'm clumping up together, it's, oh, this is a section and part of, the application.
Yeah. And then if they still do give you an issue, you can always say, well, there's a couple of approaches that you could take, but number one is, like, you can tie it back to the beneficiary.
Yep.
Would you
So good.
hypothetical, if you passed away tomorrow, Alex, I mean, would you want to make sure that your money 100% went to your beneficiary, or would you be okay if Donnie went in there and just cashed out your policy for you?
Hear that real quick though, Adam. Hear that. You hear Adam ask that question though.
Yep.
You guys got to pay attention to this. You hear how he asked the question. It was an or question, right? It's either or. It's not a yes or no. It's not a yes or no question. It's got to be an open-ended question or an okay or fair enough type of thing to get the client to talk. It's not a no answer. There's no no in it.
And the
So
way
then
that
from there-
happens, inexplicably is practice, repetition. If you don't have the leads to call, then role play with someone. Get a friend, talk in the mirror and role play. Saying that over and over and over again, that's when it becomes just ingrained in you. And without even trying, Alex is obviously doing it, Adam's doing it, and I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to get into it. And all it takes is just repetition, 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 practice, practice, practice. Ask yourself the objection, read your script so that whenever the objection comes, it's in your brain and you're not, Miss Jones, but looking for it.
You can't do that because the
You can't.
client will tell. Yeah.
Yeah, they
You
can
can't.
tell.
The most
Adam, you had a
important,
point.
the point where you have to be on point is in an objection. You can fumble through your script a little bit, and just tie it to, oh, I'm stumbling, sorry about that, But if you stumble with an objection, you're done. You're dead in the water. No matter what you say, you can have the best line in the world, and they're not going to do it.
100%. Yeah. So from that point on, after I've asked that question and they say, well, obviously I want my money to go to Alex, and say, well, the insurance company needs to verify that you are who you say you are. And the way that they do that is by your social, and that ties you to your beneficiary. So when something does happen to you, that's how they can verify the information. And obviously they want to make sure that you're not a criminal. And then they want to make sure you don't have anything, any warrants are out for your arrest or anything like that. Make a little joke, make them laugh.
Yeah.
And that'll usually warm them up a little bit.
Spot on.
So that's what I do. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
have anything else to add there.
Yeah, I do like that. Make them laugh. Like I said, whatever you have to do to gain their trust, whether, if it's a stern person, then show them respect. If it's a lighthearted person, then crack little jokes. You'll hear in someone's voice by the way they answer the phone. Is it hello? Is it, hey, how are you doing? Is it hello? You know what I'm saying? Like you have to just dial it back or dial it up, dial it back, dial it up, depending on the opportunity. And if you do that, if you match your tone of voice, if you treat them with the things and their touch points, because there's, I think, 12 personality types. I'll put the book in chat after we read this, but a book I read from Jim McElroy, I think. Talks about 12 different personality types and how to respond to each one of those 12. So like I said, if you respond to how a person wants to be responding, you won't run into as many objections. And again, the best way to overcome the objection is not have it in the first place.
And how do we not have it in the first place, Donnie?
By building trust, by hitting touch points, by showing respect,
Pre-frame.
by prepaying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even to touch on what Donnie, you were saying about, fumbling through your script and stuff, when there is an objection, I think you're spot on. Like you're not going to get you'll get off the phone pretty quick if you're fumbling. But I think it also comes back to like what I said before, is just being honest with the client and saying, hey, ma'am, and honestly be honest with them. Hey, I just started, picking up the phone probably about 6 months ago. I have my trainer right here with me. He's been doing it for 2 or 3 years, and I'm kind of just going with the process. So bear with me. Okay. And that's helped some agents that I've worked with too, is literally just being honest with them. Hey, say, I'm still working in the process. I have my trainer right here if he needs to jump in, but I'm right here with you.
Yeah.
And some people think that's wrong. Some people think that's wrong. Right. And sometimes, and it's not, because you just need to be honest with the client, because when the client sees that you're being honest and you actually care about them, they will be willing to listen. They will.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just have to be human, right? Like people
Yeah,
want that
exactly.
connection with another person. They want to know
Exactly.
that you're sincere. And by saying stuff like that, like it really does create that, I I guess, connection with the client, right?
It's
Because they see
disarming.
that, you're just working a job like anybody else. You're a person,
Yep.
and yeah, like I understand. Sure.
Yeah,
All
you're not
barriers are
someone in a
down.
foreign country just trying to sell them, shampoo. You know what I'm saying? You're someone that actually has intent and value to bring to their life,
Right.
And you have to communicate that. And like I said, a lot of times you have to communicate that within the first 10 seconds of a phone call, and it's very hard. So
Yeah.
that's why I said
Yep.
you have to focus on the tone of your voice. You have to focus on what you call Mr. or Mrs. Sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. What's up, bro? If you're talking to a younger guy. Believe me, the second I love getting a young person on the phone. If you get me a young person on the phone, I'm selling them a policy. What's up, homie? Like, let's do this, man. We're out here. We're out here living, bro. We're living like kings. Let's do this. We're doing it right.
That's awesome, Donnie.
Oh,
Well,
I love having a young person on the phone. It's so refreshing to not have to like I said. Sometimes you have to play a character
But
on
be
that first
yourself.
initial call, not in the appointment. By no means would I play a character in the appointment. You want to make sure you're a true, genuine self and be presentable, of course. Don't be fake in an appointment. People can tell. You can
People
be a
can
little bit
tell.
fake over a phone. It's hard to tell over a phone.
yeah, 100%.
So, like I
Well,
said, if your personality is just not one of extrovert, of asking those questions, then again, play a character. It's not you picking up the phones, it's your appointment setter.
Yeah.
Whenever you pick up the phones, you're the appointment setter and you're a big boss. You ask all the questions you need to ask. You're confident. They can't tell the phone who you are. They don't know who you are. Now, if
and I
you're in
think that
home,
point right there is such a great tool to use also with anything that you say or any approach that you make in sales. You're never going to talk to this person ever again, more than likely, right? If you're not going to make the sale. So
yep.
why be timid? Why be afraid to say something to try and overcome an objection when they're going to forget that you even had a conversation with them an hour from now, right?
Hmm.
They are definitely not thinking about you as much as you think that they are. And like I said, you'll probably never meet them in real life, probably never even talk to them again.
Yep.
And even if you do, they probably won't remember you. I
Yeah.
just last week, I sold a policy to a guy that I talked to back in May that he told me he wasn't interested. Like literally the same guy. That's cool. I didn't know I did that. That's just because my thumbs up. But literally, I had talked to him and he told me no. And then I called him again 3 months later and I sold him a policy. And I'm going to sell a policy to his wife this afternoon.
Ooh,
So it's like,
that's a
you
bad
never know.
man.
And people really don't remember. I promise.
And I like that's so good, Adam. Like I have a couple agents right now that I'm working with over the phone, and even me calling them out, they could agree with me. But I love them. I'm trying to work with them, and we're processing. We're doing better, but it's so timid over the phone, you know. And I was doing some calls with him yesterday, and then another agent came in, a dude that's been doing it for longer than me for 4 years, and we're sitting there just booking appointments. He's like, "Damn, you guys are freaking good," like, dude, like, what is going on? And it's just like, dude, and I say it's like I really don't care. Like I'm being myself. I don't care what the outcome is. Like I have enough trust and confidence in my skills and this guy's skills that was sent over here that you can just go out and book the appointment, right? Just have the
Mhm.
confidence and the desire just to do better on the phone. Like
Absolutely.
stop being just like what you said, Adam. I'm just kind of repeating it, but just don't be timid because all they're going to tell you is no, and they won't even remember you 5 minutes from that call if if they
100%.
if they don't book an appointment or you don't close them. That's it.
You don't remember your clients after the phone call. I write notes after my phone call so I can remember in the appointment.
It's 100% true.
So they're not going to remember. Why care? Go for it. Be honest. Say 1,000, different objection scripts. Keep them on the phone for, 4 hours while you figure it out. Do whatever you have to, man. Who cares?
Yeah, there's so good.
You're one no away from a yes. That's
One
absolutely.
no. I love that. One no away from a yes.
I think that's a great way to wrap up this session of our podcast. I hope we covered all of the things that you were hoping to get out of this podcast today as far as objections go. If there was something we didn't cover, feel free to, shoot each of us a private message if you'd like, or you
Absolutely.
can comment down below. I saw Joshua Youngs just commented a minute ago. Have a great Friday, everyone. Sponsored by the Medicare Machine Factory,
Shout
Joshua Young.
out.
So
Shout out Joshua
appreciate you.
Youngs. If you need help, that's the man. He is a juggernaut. I love Josh.
Yes,
He's such a
100%.
good guy.
So I think that'll be it for today. We appreciate everybody joining in and hopping in and out of the call this morning. Like I said, if you need anything, feel free to reach out, and we'll be here next week. If you have any suggestions for what you'd like us to talk about, please, again, cover that in the chat. And we will talk to you guys on the flip side.
Shout out. Later, y'all. Go kill it.
Yeah.